Hello, my name is Allison Garraway-Chalmers, and this is my digital learning resource for Education 5103, Integration of Instructional Design and Educational Technology. For this assignment, I have decided to create a daily and seasonal changes unit for my grade Primary 1 French Immersion class in Sackville, Nova Scotia. The website is designed to provide everything a teacher would need to be able to implement this unit in their classroom. On the welcome page or the home page, you'll see that there's a brief overview of the format, including that this can be used for a at-home or blended learning, but it was originally intended to be used in person. It also offers some site navigation, the learning module overview, for example, the module at a glance page, assessments and reflection, digital tools and resources, and of course our digital concerns. Below you will find some key features of the module, including that it has step-by-step exploration, interactive digital tools and resources, hands-on learning and assessment, as well as it being flexible for various learning settings. When moving to the learning module overview, you will find a topic overview. This is a 10-lesson unit designed for science, and it includes learning objectives for literacy as well as science and some digital citizenship as well. Below you will find information regarding the target learners. I have a class of 21 grade primary students that are extremely diverse and have varying levels of support required. Of my classroom students, I have 12 approximately that are in some form of adaptations. These young learners have emergent literacy skills and are requiring a lot of support visually and with audio supports in place as well. The unit has been designed to be used with Chromebooks because these are what are most accessible for my school. Below you will also find a brief video explaining the different types of learning styles. The unit has been designed with this in mind and has taken into account that I have some busy little kiddos that need to get up and move often. Below this section, you will find learning objectives. These have been redesigned to ensure that they are in student-friendly language and can be used as your targets in your classroom. Next, I will give a brief overview of the instructional design principles that guided me through this unit. Our unit, or my unit, is grounded in cognitivism, constructivism, and activity theory. You'll notice below I have included a couple diagrams and some information, including a video, to help explain the different things that influenced the instructional design of my unit. I have used cognitivism to inform the use of multimedia elements such as images, videos, and animations. I have also used constructivism to promote hands-on, inquiry-based activities, allowing my students to build on their own understanding of seasonal changes. And activity theory was used to help keep my students integrated into the lesson by creating fun artifacts. Moving along to the next section of the site is the module at a glance page. Here on this page, you'll see the entire module outlined, providing a brief overview of each of the 10 lessons. This is providing a scope and sequence, culminating in the 10th lesson where we review the entirety of the unit and students share their work. If you navigate to the sidebar, you'll see lessons 1 through 10 outlined, and if you click on them, you'll get a full detailed lesson plan for each of the 10 lessons. In addition to a detailed plan for each of the lessons, if you continue to scroll over, you will find the digital tools and resources page. In looking through the digital tools and resources page, we can see that I've selected a variety of different tools and resources. For the majority of the lessons, 1 through 10, the tools required will be a class set of Chromebooks. These were selected because, as mentioned earlier, most schools have them readily available. A projector, which is also available to most classrooms. Adapter cable, which was purchased by myself, I've linked here as well. This adapter cable allows me to hook up my Chromebook directly to my projector, rather than using a classroom PC. In addition to using these tools, I have also selected several platforms and apps. The platforms and apps have all been selected using HRCE's approval list to ensure that I am not using something that is not copyright protected. Among these different applications and tools are platforms such as YouTube, Météo Media, which is the weather network but in French, Book Creator, a QR code adapter, which you can see that I've listed instructions on how to use for HRCE employees. This QR code will create, or this application will create the QR codes used to log in with the students' personal credentials and makes logins much swifter for younger students. You can see that the YouTube videos I've selected are all French and age appropriate. Continuing on, you'll see that there are some lessons that use Nearpod. Within the Nearpod platform, I have created several lessons and different gamified quizzes that are engaging for the students. For lesson 7, this was the lesson that was intended to have a virtual field trip. After really considering the cost of the Oculus or cell phones required to really make the 3D experience with Google Expeditions work, it was unrealistic for my classroom and in my context. However, I did leave some details to interest others and see perhaps that you might be able to do something in your school. As an alternative, you'll see a YouTube video that is a drone shot of a forest that simulates the same general idea as the Google Expedition experience. Later on, you can see that my students will be using Canva and that I have used it to generate some sheets for assessment as well as brainstorming sheets. And you can see that I've used Canva to generate a inspiration collage for my students. My students will also be using Canva for Education and Unsplash, which is a website that will ensure that they are not using photos that have not been copyright protected. Next, we'll navigate to the Assessments and Reflections page. On this page, you'll find a grouping of assessment tools that I have compiled for formative as well as summative assessment, some of which I have created myself, others that I have borrowed from other places. Here you can see a writing checklist for students. I have also created a reflection page for the students with a couple of different exit ticket options. Finally, there is an assessment checklist for the teacher to take a peek at the student collage as a group project. Down below, you'll see the summative assessment tools that I've created. One is a rubric for the teacher. The other is a student checklist to help ensure that they've gotten all elements of their journal complete. The final page of our unit is the digital concerns. Based on the feedback I received after assignment 2 and my own reflections, there have been some modifications and adaptations and solutions for my digital concerns section. At the top of the page, you'll notice that there is a brief overview of some of the digital concerns and how they've been mitigated. However, below I have added a full table with details regarding my concerns and the solutions. If you click on the table, you'll be able to make a larger version open. Following the link, you'll find the full table details. As you can see, some of the concerns that I have had and that I have mitigated involve technological constraints, such as students having struggles logging into the Chromebooks independently. To mitigate this situation, I have used the QR code website on HRCE and have also listed another website that will generate QR codes in case you're not an HRCE member. Access to Chromebooks itself is a tricky thing to mitigate. At our school, we have sign-out sheets, and this just requires extra teacher planning. Also, making sure that you have a full set of Chromebooks available at your school is an important thing. Alternatively, students could take turns to mitigate this problem. The biggest thing I had to let go of during this unit was Google Expeditions. Because Google Expeditions requires VR headsets, and these VR headsets require cell phones to work properly, this is something that is not realistic for my context. That That is not necessarily the case for other people, but we have mitigated this problem by finding an alternative YouTube video. All of the French applications and tools have been researched by myself or generated by myself and are all age appropriate and in French for the students. This did require a bit of searching, with the one exception of the Chromebook Care video. The concern regarding privacy and data security have been mitigated because most of the students, if not all of the students, have had practice with their logins. Any student that does not have a login name and password will be provided one, and the tools and apps that I have used are all approved by HRCE's TILT department. I have included a link here to the guidelines and the approved programs. To protect the security of the students, as mentioned before, each student has an individual login that is required. We have mitigated the struggles of trying to remember their passwords as young students by using the QR codes. In addition to having my students log in, there may be parental consent required. For my context, this has already been received and we do not need it. However, that might be something that needs to be considered. For copyright considerations, students will be using digital images and resources for their collages, and we've mitigated this issue by using a copy-free website called Unsplash, where students can type in what images they want, and it will ensure that what they're copying and pasting is copyright-free. In terms of accessibility, all of the tools and resources are in French, which means they are accessible to my French immersion students. If they were not originally in French, they have been translated and are therefore now accessible. The only English resource, as mentioned before, is the Chromebook Care video. I made this exception because it is essential that my students truly understand without language barriers to make sure that they know how to care and be safe online. Some originally suggested resources did have to be changed as they were in English. However, I've spent the time researching to ensure that I found French ones that are adequate. Features like text-to-speech, audio narration, and optimized visuals are prioritized. I've selected the app Book Creator for its user-friendly tools and the ability for students to speak into a microphone and dictate their text. This is a huge asset for my French students that have not yet learned how to spell all French words. Finally, support for students with visual or hearing impairments. Although none of my students have visual or hearing impairments, this is a consideration that is important for other schools and in other contexts. Students with visual impairments may struggle with certain digital elements. The teachers will then have to use the unit, use screen readers and high contrast modes, as well as enlargeable text options where necessary. They can also receive support through the APSE department or whatever context that they might have in their own boards. Students with hearing impairments may have difficulty with the audio content. Therefore, it is essential that we provide subtitles when using YouTube videos. Thank you so much for your time and for listening to this extremely long video.